Welcome to week 5, everyone. You've already done a lot so far this semester to develop your close reading skills and your skills as a writer of expository and argumentative essays. This week, we are going to be flipping the script. We're going to be taking a step back and reconsidering whether or not the things that you've been asked to produce over your academic career are indeed essays. Instructors call them essays, and you yourself refer to them as essays. This week's first assigned text, Paul Graham's The Age of the Essay, is hopefully going to get you to take a closer look at the assumptions informing both what your teachers assign you and what you have come to expect when assigned an essay to complete. The main things that he will be doing for you are providing just a series of pressure points in thesis-driven writing that you will hopefully examine more closely or apply pressure of your own in trying to come to terms with what you think makes an essay an essay. And it's a quite brief essay. It's only 14 pages long, as you can see here. But it covers a lot of ground in the space that it does have. And I just want to use this week's lecture to signpost for you what the important parts of his essay are and how these will be carried over into your writing assignments in this class. Okay, first things first. What you will need to be mindful of as you write essays in the Paul Graham style are these things. Paul Graham's essay is making the case for you that if you are writing an essay, and it is indeed an essay, then you are not trying to pithily express and then summarily defend and develop a thesis, an argument. He instead says that essays worthy of the name are attempts to answer a guiding question to which you, the author, do not have a ready-made answer. So essays are places that you go to try to answer questions that you don't have an easy time answering. Accordingly, according to Paul Graham, what this means is if you are reading an essay and or writing an essay worthy of the name, then it's most likely going to meander. It's most likely going to bounce around a bit. He does insist that this needs to be a cleaned up line of thought, but ultimately an essay is a record of a meandering line of thought that the author is pursuing and trying to arrive at a convincing answer to its guiding question. So many of the things that you might have been criticized for in your essay writing in the past are suddenly virtues in an actual essay. You might have had instructors in the past criticize you for failing to include an argument stated up front. Alternatively, you might have been criticized by previous instructors for writing essays that are scattershot, that are all over the place. Both of these things are not problems in Paul Graham style essays, which if you believe Paul Graham, you can just say are essays. The other criterion, or one of the other criteria that Graham adduces in his essay on essays is an essay should not bore the reader. So it's okay to meander, it's okay to wander here and there, but if you're doing it, you best not lose the interest of the reader. So there is an attention paid to readers baked into the essay writing form. That is to say, essays aren't things you write for yourself. Those would be diaries or something of the sort, journals. An essay is for other people, which means if you're writing it and you are offering your line of thought, that line of thought needs to have its audience in mind. So do not lose the interest of your reader. Over the course of accounting for what makes an essay convincing, Graham insists that it involves a prioritization of truth. You're trying to arrive at the true answer. Convincing equals truth. So it's not persuasive in the sense of you as a defense attorney are trying to persuade a jury that your client is innocent. Even if your client is indeed guilty, your job as the defense attorney is to persuade the jury that this person should be set free. Graham associates that type of thinking with thesis-driven writing. Here's my answer, and you must accept it, right or wrong. Essays, by contrast, according to Graham, are trying to be convincing. They're trying to arrive at an answer that's truthful. Who gets to decide what the truth is or whether or not an essay's answer is indeed convincing? Graham insists that you, the essay writer, need to delegate that to smart readers. So show your essay drafts to your smart friends and ask them, is the answer I'm arriving at here convincing? If it's not, you need to go back to the drawing board. Now, the last thing that Graham mentions as a feature of all essay writing worthy of the name is contradiction. He insists that an essay needs to have a surprise, and according to him, a surprise is the same as a contradiction. So it's you saying one thing at one point in the essay, and later coming back and realizing that that thing you said cannot be true, this other thing has to be true. So again, contradiction, if we're unfamiliar with that in its rigorous logical form, contradiction is simply a term for two statements that can't be true at the same time. So the statement the door is open and the statement the door is closed, those two things cannot be true at the same time. If the door is open, then the statement the door is closed is false. So a contradiction is what you get when you have two statements and one of them, the truth of one of them means that the other has to be false. So if the door is open, then the statement the door is closed cannot be true. So what Paul Graham means by this is an essay will force you to pursue a line of thought at some point that you will then later have to take away from yourself. That is to say, this is a way of making sure that the questions you're trying to answer are indeed questions worthy of pursuing in an essay. Because you start with some positions or assumptions that are over the course of the writing of the essay going to be shown to you to be untenable, to be false, to be in need of correction or transformation. Now, if you are contrasting these two forms of writing, the split looks something like this. The thesis-driven writing that you're accustomed to from previous classes is defensive. You're building a fort in the forest and preparing it against all possible attacks. So you need to make clear where the fort is. That's your thesis. You need to make clear why it's your fort. That's all the stuff that you're building around it to protect it. And you're trying to avoid things like contradiction because those would be potential avenues for an enemy force to come in and take over your fort. By contrast, essay writing of the sort that Paul Graham is talking about is exploratory. You're not building a fort, you're taking a walk in the woods. And you're not just taking a walk in the woods to a place you've been to before, instead you're trying to go to a place you've never visited. And the essay is just simply an account, a record of your line of thought as you take this walk in the woods. Now you'll note from this contrast that essay writing, by definition then, requires it to be personal. That is to say, this isn't just anybody's walk in the woods, this is your walk in the woods. So many of the things that instructors might have told you in the past about essays, don't use the first person singular, don't refer to personal experiences, that stuff is shown to be bogus. I want to close here by very briefly taking a look at what this all looks like then in terms of assessment. So if we're assessing a Paul Graham style essay, then obviously the rubric for doing so is going to be very different from a thesis-driven essay. And I want to show you just very briefly what that looks like. So instead of the customary criteria here addressing things like cogency or addressing things like thesis, the strength of a thesis, what we've got here are 4 criteria: ability to convince. So is the answer you're arriving at in your essay indeed truthful? That is to say, does it indeed look like it's true? Ability to interest, are there any boring bits? Ability to surprise, you're contradicting yourself at some point. And then the only overlap with a thesis-driven essay rubric in a course like this would be your use of textual support and analysis. But I do want to note, with a Paul Graham style essay, not all of your attention is going to be focused exclusively on analyzing textual support. All of the thesis-driven prompts are going to be argumentative, and they will indeed be focused on the text that I have assigned to you. The Paul Graham style prompts instead, by contrast, will be presenting you with questions that your essay will then try to answer, but it's not baked into those questions that you're going to be focusing exclusively on the assigned text. In fact, if you're going to hold the reader's interest, you're presumably going to be talking about yourself a good deal as well. Okay. I imagine more questions will come up as you make your way through this week's readings. I just want to wrap this up by asking you, as you read Best American Essays 2019, For each essay that you read, ask yourself, is this a thesis-driven essay or is this a Paul Graham-style essay? And I think you'll be very surprised at what your answers are. We'll reflect on that and talk about that in the weeks to come. But with that, I wish you good luck this week. And as ever, please reach out to me via Canvas inbox or the Q&A Cafe should any questions come up. Thank you.